What's up, everybody? Star Wars again. Yes, we're not done talking about Star Wars. At least I'm not. Listen, this is gonna be I'm gonna try to keep it as brief as possible, and try to let Sandy sleep a little bit more. The thing is, Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker has come out already. It's been almost a week since I've seen it. And I'm going to see it again tonight with the family and see if my opinion on it changes in any way. But the thing is, when I came out of the theater, I loved it. That was my initial impression of it. I really enjoyed the movie. Obviously, I had some time to think about about what I think of it ever since. I've been hearing a lot of the other people's opinions on the movie. Some people loved it, some people hated it, a lot of people were meh on it. But the thing is, I don't really think that my review on it from the theater at the moment that I've just finished seeing it was enough. So this is kind of a new thing that I'm trying to start here on some of the bigger movies. I'm not going to do it for every movie, but I just want to do the before and after video that I usually do in the theaters, and maybe in some cases just do a week later, or a day later, or a month later, to see if my opinion has changed. It's not going to be like a full review. It's just going to be a further exploration of my opinions on the movies that I see. And the thing is, my opinion so far hasn't changed. Like I said, I'm going to see it again to see if I feel any different. I'm not going to say that it hasn't changed at all. When I saw it, I loved it. I was completely engrossed in the moment, and no spoilers, but if you've seen the last 30 to 40 minutes of the movie, you know exactly why. It's some of the best, I'm just going to straight up say it, some of the best action in the sequel trilogy. Maybe not the best action in the entire franchise, but it was exciting, and it was a new surprise every 5 minutes that kind of made me jump in my seat. And yeah, so maybe I had a little bit of that carryover when I was reviewing the movie in the theater. So I still like it. I like the ending that we got for the Skywalker saga. I don't agree with a lot of the choices made in this movie, and trust me, there are a lot of things that I dislike about the movie. Overall, I liked it. I liked seeing how all these different elements that I liked some and I hated others. I liked seeing how all these elements came together to create a perfect package that I ended up really appreciating and enjoying. And as a fan of all Star Wars, I started with the prequels, as you probably may know by now. I started with the prequels, went back and watched the original trilogy, got into Clone Wars, then Rebels, and started reading the novels and the comics and the video games. And I'm a fan of the new trilogy. My favorite new Star Wars movie is Rogue One, which is actually my second favorite Star Wars movie of all time. My first is Revenge of the Sith. I'm a fan of all Star Wars. I love The Mandalorian as well. I'm a fan of all Star Wars. I don't just define myself in one particular area, even though I started as a prequelist and the prequels are still my favorite. I love the original trilogy. I love the video games, the canon ones and the non-canon ones. I just love Star Wars, man. I don't particularly define myself in one particular box. And this new trilogy is a mess. I'm gonna say it out loud. The new trilogy is a mess. I loved The Force Awakens. I absolutely loved it. I went back and saw it 4 times in the theater, and I saw it a few more times afterwards. The Last Jedi, I really enjoyed it when I came out and watched it in the theater. I knew people were going to hate it. I just didn't know they were going to hate it that much, and for all the wrong reasons, to be honest. I only went back and saw it one more time, and that's the only other time I saw The Last Jedi. And, well, my opinion on it has kind of swayed, mostly because of just the negative reaction to this movie, and I just didn't want to. It kind of soured my experience of the movie, and I kind of forgotten how much I enjoyed the movie. So I'm gonna watch it again soon and see if I still feel the same way, and see if all of the other people's opinions on it has soured my opinion as much as I think. But as far as The Rise of Skywalker, once again, I've only seen it once. I still really like it. It's just my main problem with The Rise of Skywalker and the entire new trilogy, as a matter of fact. I think it was the main downfall of this trilogy, even though financially it's doing well. The main downfall of this new trilogy is that it was completely and unapologetically governed by the fans. Many people would like to say that Disney ruined Star Wars. I think that's just an oversimplification of things. That's just surface level observation. It's not really, you're not really focusing on the main issue here. The main issue here is that Disney bought Star Wars. Well, they bought Lucasfilm in general. They bought the entire studio in an attempt to make money, as studios do. That's what studios do. That's their prerogative, and they're allowed to do that. I don't fault Disney for doing that, especially since they gave us a lot of Star Wars that I personally loved. Like I said, Rogue One, The Mandalorian, The Force Awakens. So I'm not gonna fault Disney for doing what they're doing. And keep in mind, we never would have had this guy if not for Disney. So I liked Disney's approach to things. I loved that we're going to have new Star Wars, new canon Star Wars, new Star Wars movies for future generations, new Star Wars TV shows. I really loved that idea. What I didn't like is their approach to it. And I'm going to be talking specifically about the trilogy, not the spin-offs and not the TV shows, because I think those are the ones, the trilogy movies, those are the ones that suffered the most out of this. This whole being governed by the fans and letting the fans decide where to take the story. So, The Force Awakens, while I loved it, there is something about it that I absolutely despised, and it was the approach and how they treated the prequels, which again are my favorites in the Star Wars universe, specifically mostly because of nostalgia, because that's how I started. But around the time The Force Awakens came out, there was just a complete and utter disregard for the prequels, and the hatred for the prequels has never been stronger than when The Force Awakens came out. They treated the prequels like it completely didn't exist, and like it was a tumor that needed to be removed. And I'm sorry that that's the language that I have to use, but it really felt like that. It felt like the filmmakers making these movies hated the prequels, and they said, well, everyone hates the prequels, no one likes these prequels, let's just treat them like they don't exist, and let's just focus on the original trilogy. The original trilogy is the gold standard that we need to adhere to, and so we got the movie that everyone says was a ripoff of A New Hope, even though I see it differently enough, and that's how we got that movie. And so a lot of people loved The Force Awakens. A lot of people were very vocal on the fact that it looked too similar to A New Hope. So when Rian Johnson made his movie, The Last Jedi, he tried to make it as different as possible while still keeping it Star Wars. Excuse me. And while I think he succeeded in that, he created a new movie that pushed the boundaries, that it was thinking outside the box. It took Star Wars into a whole new level, especially the Force. Even though I didn't really like a lot of the things that happened in the movie that didn't really involve the main story of Rey and Luke, it was different. And as it happens, people hated it even more. So when they made a movie that was kind of very similar to A New Hope, a lot of people didn't like it because it was too similar to the thing that they already knew, and they said that they weren't taking risks and they weren't giving us anything new. So when they finally did give us something new and different and took chances, everyone hated it even more because it wasn't like something that we were familiar with, because it was so different. And it sort of put Disney in a box that they couldn't get out of, and it's a no-win situation. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So really, there wasn't much that Disney could have done in that situation. I realized very early on that the fans are gonna hate it no matter what, and there's no way out of it. There's no way to win. So what I wanted them to do is just complete the story as is, as they planned it out, if they planned it out at all. Because I agree with a lot of people. I don't think there was much of a plan from episode 9, 8, from episode 7, 8, and 9. It kind of felt like they just did whatever they wanted to do, and they mapped it out in a certain way that it connects, but not really. And that has never been more true about The Rise of Skywalker. So when The Rise of Skywalker came out, what I really wanted them to do was just to finish what they started, to kind of end it the way they wanted it to. And while I definitely think 40% of it was what they wanted to do originally, 60% of it was just trying to please the fans. And I am one of the fans. I had problems with a lot of the Star Wars stuff that we gotten recently. I wanted to be satisfied by this movie, and I was, but I just think this movie catered a little too much to everybody. You can't please everybody, unless you're pizza, obviously. But they really tried to do everything the fans wanted. To use the old saying, they threw everything and the kitchen sink into this movie. To me, it worked. To a lot of other people, it worked. To a lot of other people, it didn't, and that's fine. It's okay. But I just think it shouldn't have happened this way. It shouldn't have tried to cater to the fans, to just try to satisfy as many people as you can. You know, when you try to satisfy everybody at once, what eventually mostly happens is you end up satisfying nobody. So I just think they should have just stuck to their gut and finished the movie properly. Whether it was, bringing Palpatine back, whether it's, making Rey who she ended up being, again, no spoilers, whether it was redeeming Kylo or not, whether it was focusing more on Poe or Finn or whatever. There's so many other things they could have done better with this movie. But I think the main problem is that the entire studio listened to the fans a little too much. And, Pokemon also came under fire a lot this year. And mostly because of the National Dex situation. And so many fans voiced their opinions on it and were very vocal. They were not merciful towards Sword and Shield this year. And what eventually ended up happening was Game Freak stuck to their guns. They didn't listen to the fans. They didn't listen to the trolls. Even though not all trolls were fans, and even though not all the fans were trolls, they were just people who were disappointed. They ended up making the video game, the Pokemon game that they wanted to make, and they stuck to their guns. And what it ended up being is honestly arguably the most fun Pokemon game that I've played ever. And keep in mind, I only started playing all the Pokemon games in 1 year, so I kind of had a bit of a Pokemon overload, but they stuck to it. They stuck the landing, and what it ended up being was one of the funnest games I've played this year. And it shows, because Sword and Shield happens to have one of the highest selling figures out of all the Pokemon games. So I think these two are a very good comparison to show that when one franchise doesn't listen to the fans and does what they want to do, not what the fans want them to do, sometimes the end result could be amazing. When a different franchise only listens to the fans, what ends up happening is, you get fan service. And fan service is a good thing, I say. You should always try to please the fans, but just, don't try to overdo it with fan service. Fan service can be a beautiful thing when used right, and when it isn't used right, and I mean, it's overused, you get something like The Rise of Skywalker. So that's my personal opinions on it. You can agree, you can disagree, you can love my opinions, you can hate my opinions. Just, you know, try to keep it civil in the comments, if you will, and you know, try to avoid spoilers, if you will, because a lot of people haven't seen this movie yet, especially my mom, who watches my movies. Hello, Mom. But yeah, that's what I think of The Rise of Skywalker. We'll see if my opinions will change by the time I see it again tonight. Until next time, guys. Sorry if I was going a little too much on a tangent and sounding too much like an angry fan, but I'm only saying this because I love Star Wars and I'm very passionate about it, and it just breaks my heart to see a fandom collapsing in on itself and breaking down this one thing that we all know and love. So thank you guys for watching, if you've watched all the way to the end. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this subject. We'll see if I'll do this type of video again on any other movies that I see in the future, especially the big ones. But until next time, guys, may the Force be with you, always.
Hello again, everybody! I really hope you enjoyed this video, cause I really enjoyed making it. So, if you like what you've seen here, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more awesome content like this. So, until next time, guys, I'll see you guys next time.